Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to the Circuit Catalunya. We are here just outside Barcelona for the final event of the 2015 Seat Leon Eurocup. These are the 13th and 14th races of what have been an excellent season of competition. We're here at the home of the Spanish Grand Prix. So hello from myself, Ben Evans, to Annette, and welcoming you to an absolutely gorgeous day here at Circuit Catalunya. As you can see, just over 20 degrees. The sun is in the sky, perfect conditions to go motor racing, and the next 14 laps really do promise to be something of a very special treat, because we have got an absolutely gigantic field of cars lining up, and the championship is very much on the line going into this weekend, because at the start of qualifying this morning, Paul Rosell and Stian Poulsen were tied on points, with Michael Ascona still mathematically in the hunt, and Ascona helping himself enormously with the 3 points that he gained, putting the car on pole position. But then last year's champion Paul Rosell, he scored 2 points for qualifying in second place, and that puts him to the front of the championship on 74 points, 2 clear of Stian Poulsen. So for Paul Rosell, a good race today might just be enough to give him the title. Lining up third on the grid, it's a newcomer to the championship, Niels Langeveld, in one of the target competition cars, and Langeveld in the car that we have normally seen for Andrina Guga. And then another newcomer, it is Jimmy Antunes, who lines up for Monlau competition, fourth on the grid. Antunes very impressive in qualifying earlier on, inside the top 3 or 4 places throughout the course of the 30-minute session. All of that means that many of our expected front runners are quite a bit lower down the grid than we would have expected. Here is how they line up in full then, with pole position Michael Ascona and Paul Rosell, and then we have got the target car. 7th on the grid, we have Manuel João, just clear of Shane Anthony Williams. Stian Poulsen starts in 9th place, just clear of Alexander Morgan. So Poulsen, an awful lot to do. Then the Seat Sport guest drivers, Alberto Bassi and the off-road motorcycle legend Laia Sainz in 11th and 12th, just clear of Jürgen Schmal and Attila Tassi. Then it is Stefano Zanini and Amalie Vignes making a very welcome return to the championship. Mario de Blanda will be disappointed with 18th. The Austrian driver has been right at the sharp end throughout the course of the season, as has Julien Brichet. But Brichet, 4th in the standings, ahead of qualifying, will be hugely disappointed to be back on row 10. Dejan Balatovic then in 21st place. Mauricio Hernandez, another driver we've seen on the podium this season, but he from 25th is going to have his work cut out to climb that far up through the order. Harriet Arrubarena making a return to the championship. We saw him last year. And then Clément Mathieu starts right at the tail of the field, just behind Munkong Sathien Thirikul. So that is how they are going to line up as the grid clears. The race is going to be over 14 laps, or if we do have the safety car intruding, then it is going to be a 40-minute time limited race. As the grid is cleared, the car's about to be sent off on the green flag formation lap, and you have got the grey and red car. Michael Ascona, who was so dominant, the runner-up in last year's Clio Eurocup, dominated the first race of the year at Paul Ricard, but then hasn't been on the podium since the Nürburgring. Paul Rosell, last year's champion, got there by consistency. This year, he's got there by being an out-and-out front runner. He's already had 3 victories to his credit this season and did exactly what he needed to do in qualifying this morning. Stian Poulsen left it until very, very late in the session before looking to set his best time, but was a little bit off the ultimate pace, and so he eventually was classified in 9th place as the drivers get the opportunity to inspect this just over 4.5 kilometre long Circuit Catalunya. It's about 20 minutes drive from the centre of Barcelona, and a real technical challenge competitors in the South Leon Eurocup because of the long start-finish straight and the number of high and mid-speed, long radius corners, really putting a premium on the ability of the drivers to have got the setup right. So they take the opportunity just to get a little bit of heat into their tyres before they come back to the grid and go racing. There is a glimpse of Julien Brichet, and Julien Brichet has had such an up and down season. He's not actually won a race outright, but has been on the podium almost on every single weekend. So to have had qualifying going as disappointingly as it did for him will be a great shame. So there is the first few cars heading down into turn 5. There's a glimpse of the white car of the driver who came into the weekend tied on points, Stian Poulsen, the 28-year-old Norwegian. And there you see the Drivers' Championship situation. So Michael Ascona still mathematically in the hunt because there are 20 points left on the table with 10 for the victory. Stian Poulsen 2 back from Paul Rosell. So provided Rosell finishes clear of Stian Poulsen, and of course on count back, if it came to that, well, Stian Poulsen has only had the one victory this season. So if Rosell finishes today's race 10 points clear of Stian Poulsen, then he will have won the championship, because although Poulsen could theoretically match his points tally, he wouldn't be able to match his wins total, and therefore that would be enough to give Rosell the crown. But there are some wild cards here. We've got Niels Langeveld, the Dutch driver, third. We've got Jimmy Antunes in fourth. There is Laia Sanz, who has had such success through two-wheeled enduro career, hugely popular motorsport competitor in Spain, and really one of the very best known personalities in Spanish motorsport. And her car has been attracting a great degree of attention through the weekend. But it is two other Spanish drivers who will be lining up on the front row of the grid. There is Carafort Oriola. He is just clear of Lucille Cipriano on the third row of the grid, as the car's flicking through the final chicane before they will line up for the standing start. 14 laps. It's Michael Ascona. The last opportunity to get a little bit of heat into those Yokohama tyres as he runs down the start and finish straight through to the grid. The cars just revving their engines in this tunnel that's created underneath the imposing grandstand here. And the pit lane, it will be quite the cacophony when they do get up and running. So the first couple of rows rolling into position now. But it's going to be a long wait. Something in the region of 33 cars that we saw in qualifying earlier on. There is Julien Brichet now from 19th. How much ground can he make up? We have points that get paid all the way down to 8th place. So Motorsport team all watching on. I think they can be very, very proud with the way that this 2015 season has unfolded, as still the cars are coming into position. Lorenzo Bierau de Viega just coming to halt in front of me. And there is Clément Mathieu, who will be completing the field. And once he rolls into position, then the countdown procedure will get underway as Mathieu comes to a halt, which means that the marshal at the rear of the field is about to unfurl the green flag. He does so now. The 5 seconds board is shown to the drivers. They look to the gantry as we wait for the lights to change. The red lights are on. The revs rise and away we go. It's a super start from Paul Rosell, who eases away from the line absolutely beautifully. As behind in the midfield, that is a fast starting Stefano Zanini trying to gain ground. But look at the getaway that Rosell has had. He leads the charge as they surge towards turn 1. Then it's side by side between Langeveld and Mikel Ascona into second position. Oh, there's contact behind. Mauricio Hernandez was sideways across the road. Oh, there's a torpedo effect into turn one. There are cars scattered everywhere, and that was Hernandez being tipped into a spin. He grinds to a halt. There are several other cars involved in that, and I very much suspect that we're going to be seeing the safety car intervening as Rosell leads from Ascona, then Langeveld, Jimmy Antunes, Jordi Oriola and Manuel João as they head through turn 4. And already Mikel Ascona right back onto terms with Paul Rosell. Where is Stian Poulsen? The answer is he's in 9th place, busy trying to fend off Alexander Morgan. There's Thibaut Morgan, another driver who is a lot lower down the field than he would have liked after qualifying, as the front splitters grind against the surface of the road. The field climb uphill out of turns 7 and 8. A little bit of dust being kicked up. I think that was Attila Tassi, the Hungarian, jumping across the grass as Marco Pellegrini leads Julien Brichet. Battle for 16th and 17th. They're 3 or 4 wide further back down the field as Rosell, Ascona, Langeveld and Tunes and the rest all do battle. The very front, Lorenzo Beirao de Viega having a huge snatch of the brakes. It's the race leaders turning up through the top section of the circuit. Oh, it's getting a little bit tight behind. Looks like David Zebriat trying to push his way through. Meanwhile, Paul Rosell will look to do what he did in Monza when he scored victory in race 2 there, which was just absorb the pressure from all those behind, make them do the hard work. If he sticks to the racing line, that might just be enough for him. So across the line they come, waved yellow flags along the start and finish straight. Now, is that to signal the instant at turn 1? It is. Don't think the safety car has been scrambled, but it means there's no overtaking into one of the prime passing places on this circuit. Here's another look at it. It's at the back of the pitch you want to see. There you have it, the green and white car. Hernandez was tagged into a spin. He takes Adinabus with him. Then both cars torpedo and cannonball into the rest of the field. One of the Leyen Racing cars was caught up, as were Clément Mathieu and Jean-Laurent Navarro. Disappointing for those teammates. Another look at it, very scary, and that could have been much worse. Fortunately, the cars just scrubbed off enough speed and the angles of impact weren't quite as severe as they might have been. Nonetheless, Mauricio Hernandez walking away and understandably feeling very sore. It's another waved yellow flag. That's one of the cars that was caught up in the instant that made it as far as turn 4. That's not really what you should be doing going through a yellow flag, running side by side. Plenty of battling in these early stages. That was Amalia Viñez and Attila Tassi. It's Tassi, the grey car, who turns in across Viñez. Then we have got coming up well through the field, that's Mario Dablanda. He's up into 16th place. He pushes Marco Pellegrini out wide over the dust as they head into the braking zone. Turn 10. Dablanda able to squeeze past Viñez. They are busy fighting for about 15th position, something like that. There's a little bit of a break in the traffic back to Lorenzo Beirao de Viega, and he has got Julien Brichet just behind. Now, what about Stian Poulsen? Well, he's up into 8th place. That is going to pay him a solitary point as Paul Rosell possibly on course for 8 points. So the field surge into the 3rd lap of the race. On the brakes for turn 1, still of course the waved yellow flag, so nobody able to pass. And it also means they can all focus on getting a good exit now coming out of turn 2 into the very tricky 3rd corner. This is such a long, quick turn. There is Jürgen Schmal tucked up behind Stefano Zanini. And come out of turn 3 towards turn 4. You can overtake there. Now here is Stian Poulsen. He's just tucked up behind the South African driver Shane Anthony Williams, and then they're behind Manuel João. João in turn is applying a little bit of pressure to Jordi Oriola. Williams, who joined the championship mid-year at the Red Bull Ring, had 2 podiums that weekend. He's not yet been on the roster. We've got somebody going very slowly. I think that's either Jean-Laurent Navarro or Clément Mathieu. It's certainly not one of the front runners. There is the race leader Paul Rosell, who still leads from Ascona and Langeveld. Here is another look, meanwhile, at A little bit of a tap for Bassi, and then he spins around and takes Jeremy Lezoudier with him for company, and it's Lezoudier who has come off worse from that. Alberto Bassi should be back underway. Indeed he is, but he's lost several places. Now, let's think about the championship for a moment as we come to the end of lap 3, because if things stay as they are, then Paul Rosell will be winning the Seat Leon Eurocup title for the second year in succession this afternoon here at Circuit de Catalunya. It is now really up to Stian Poulsen to put together something of a miraculous drive. Well, he's already found a way past Shane Anthony Williams over the course of that last lap. So that is bringing Poulsen up to 7th place and 2 points. So that puts him on to 74 points virtually. But what it also means is that Paul Rosell goes up to 84 points based on current positions with the 10 points for the win. But it now also comes down to, well, how much does Mikel Ascona want to hold position? This is the golden opportunity, of course, for Paul Rosell today's race, because tomorrow's race is the reverse grid race. And there you see it. As I say, my interpretation is that based on countback, that should be enough to give Rosell the championship. Meanwhile, here is a replay of Julien Brichet's weekend going from bad to worse. An uncharacteristic spin from the Frenchman brings the JSB competition car to a halt and rejoins. Now, really, any place that Poulsen can gain is absolutely essential, because if he can find a way past Manuel Joao, then that will at least keep the title fight open into tomorrow. And the other key for Stian Poulsen is to stay out of trouble. He's clear of Shane Anthony Williams, and then behind Williams is Lucille Cipriano, who once more is leading the Lady Drivers Trophy, and then it's Alexander Morgan who completes the top 10. He's got David Sebrian just behind him. Then really the first gap in the traffic, back to Jürgen Schmal. So Paul Rosell, the former International GT Open competitor, last year's Seat Leon Eurocup champion, and looking very, very good to make it 2 in succession. But this will be possibly the concern for the Paporo team, which is that Jordi Oriola seems to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle. He's busy defending from Manuel Joao, who is right behind him, as we have also got Manuel Joao under investigation, we hear, for possibly being slightly out of position on the grid. So still, as they head into turn 1 for the 5th time, it's covered by waved yellow flags whilst the recovery work over at turn 1 is completed. Really does take away the prime overtaking opportunity, but it's the battle that's just brewing up behind the leading group of cars. Mikel Ascona, for the time being, isn't really right in terms with Paul Rosell. There's Rosell, the race leader. He's got about 6 car lengths worth of advantage over Mikel Ascona. Then it's Niels Langeveld and Jimmy Antunes. There's the Dutch driver, Langeveld. Now, will he make as much an impression as his compatriot did earlier in the year when Loris Hezemans won on his debut in the Seat Leon Eurocup? But this is really the battle to watch for. It's the one for 5th, because Jordi Oriola's got Manuel Joao and Stian Poulsen queued up right behind him, and any place here that Poulsen can gain will deprive Rosell for certain of claiming the championship this afternoon. So they come out of turn 9 in towards the braking zone for turn 10. Now, is Poulsen close enough to have a little pop to the inside of Manuel Joao? He certainly thought about it, just showed himself in the Portuguese driver's mirrors. Here is a replay of Lourenco Beirut de Viega to the inside of Marie Baus-Coppens. And it's Baus-Coppens who gets tagged into the spin. Fortunately, doesn't really get caught in amongst the oncoming traffic. So that 5 of the race about to be completed. Now, what about this queue behind Jordi Oriola? We have still, as I understand it, got yellow flags into turn 1. It's going to be hugely frustrating for Manuel Joao, because it's through the slipstream and into the first corner when he can really look to challenge. But let's see. No yellow flags at the moment that we can see. Yes, now there are, into the braking zone, which Manuel Joao sees. Backs out of the move that was otherwise possibly on, but I suspect that They will all be fully retracted next time round as Jordi Oriola comes under huge pressure, and it means the white car of Stian Poulsen now gets right up behind the orange and green machine of Manuel João as they turn through third corner. And Poulsen to the inside of João. This is a golden opportunity for Stian Poulsen. João runs wide as they head towards turn 4. He just about manages to defend as they get on the brakes in this fight for 5th position. We're at the stage of the season where every single point counts. And of course, as they battle, it means that cars in front break away. Stian Poulsen to the inside of Manuel João, and through he goes. Gains the place. So that is very good news with an eye towards the championship situation for Stian Poulsen. It's another point. That brings him up to 75 points. It means that even if Paul Rosell wins the race, he won't win the championship today. Oh dear, and that is Marco Pellegrini being edged out very, very wide by Thibaut Morg. It's another look at the move from Poulsen, beautifully judged, the inside at turn 5. Remember Esteban Guerrieri doing something very similar to James Walker in a Formula Renault 3.5 litre race several years ago here. It's not a move for the faint-hearted. You can catch your rival by surprise. It's usually very effective. But ultimately, perhaps to no avail, we get word that there's a drive-through penalty now for Manuel João for being out of position at the start. Also, that has been applied to Attila Tassi. So Manuel João, disappointment for him. All the while, though, Paul Rosell leads at the end of lap 6. 1.7 seconds, his advantage over Michael Ascona. Niels Langeveld is in third. 4th place, we have got Jimmy Antunes, and then in 5th, Jordi Oriola. Still yellow flags at turn 1. Well, there is the confirmation for you, the drive-through penalty for Manuel João. And that is a massive lock-up for one of the Leyen racing cars at turn 10. This is proving to be a devastating performance at the moment from Paul Rosell. The problem, of course, that Rosell has got is the reversal of the grid for tomorrow. So this, he knows, is the day that he has got to make hay while the sun shines. There you see it. So Stian Poulsen can just about keep the title fight open to tomorrow, provided he were to win the race and Rosell were to non-finish. Then crown would be Poulsen's. Here is Dejan Palatovic, kicking up a little bit of gravel, the Montenegrin driver, coming through the final turn. As now Stian Poulsen closes up behind Jordi Oriola. The good news is the yellow flags have been retreated over at turn 1. Now is Poulsen going to possibly challenge into turn 10? He looks to one side. It's to the inside where he really wants to challenge. And he sees the gap and goes through. Stian Poulsen gains the place on Jordi Oriola, moves up into 5th position. And this has been a very mature performance so far from Stian Poulsen. And as we approach half-race distance, from 9th on the grid, he's now climbed up into 5th position. That's another point to his credit. His next target is Jimmy Antunes. See how quickly he can get onto Antunes. Meanwhile, Dejan Palatovic and Laia Sanz. This is the fight for 20th place. Mari Bauska-Pens also part of this battle, 3 wide. Amazingly, that works out. Towards the first turn, Manuel João yet to serve his drive-through penalty, but they're all now beginning to queue up behind Antunes, who's possibly just gone off a little bit early on the Yokohama tyres. And so we've got this queue of cars all the way back to 12th place, and Jürgen Schmal running in a train. The race order is, of course, leading the way. Paul Rosell second is Michael Ascona, third is Niels Langeveld. We are watching the fight for 4th. From Antunes to Poulsen, Oriola, João, then Williams and Morgan. Now is Poulsen going to go for his trick move into turn 5? Indeed he does. Lovely pass from Stian Poulsen and up into 4th place. And the Norwegian driver making the very best of a difficult grid position. Now that is 5 points the haul for Poulsen from today. It's still hands the advantage in the title fight towards Paul Rosell. But what it now means is that Poulsen doesn't have to win tomorrow's race to stand any sort of hope of claiming the championship. And that is potentially very significant. The rest of this queue now all just beginning to get a little bit disorderly. We are on lap 8 of 14, so we're just over half race distance. And this has been one of the best Saturday races that we've had from the Saturday on Eurocup this season. Always been so close. Surely Zhao is going to serve his drive-through penalty this time around. Yes, indeed he does. He somewhat reluctantly takes to the pit lane and moves out of the queue, and it's Alexander Morgan. There he is, the black and white Peporo car, who is the driver most likely to on this occasion. Meanwhile, Rosell leads from Skåne and Lankeveld. Here comes Stian Poulsen. Now, last time through, Poulsen was a little bit quicker than both Lankeveld and Skåne. Meanwhile, Alex Morgan up ahead of Lucille Cipriano, so that puts Morgan into 8th place, earns him a championship point. It doesn't affect Lucille Cipriano's lead on the Lady Drivers Trophy, however, but she has now got David Sebrian and Jürgen Schmal just queuing up in the train behind her. But in fact, it's really Morgan who's not breaking clear. There you see it. So Poulsen now 7 points back from Rosell once it's all been worked through. Plenty of drama to consider as downhill. And where's the move? Jürgen Schmal thinks about that little bit of a challenge into turns 7 and 8. Doesn't quite work out. But the Austrian driver closing up behind David Sebrian. Sebrian in turn behind the GSB competition car, Lucille Cipriano, as they down into the very heavy braking zone for turn 10. Oriola now thinking about making a pass the inside of Antunes. Meanwhile, what are the progress of Stian Poulsen towards Niels Lankeveld? It was verging on 4 seconds last time around. The gap from 3rd to 4th, and these cars being near enough identical, it does take a while for, well, you really have to rely on mistakes from your rivals, as Oriola gets his elbows out, draws alongside Caravan Tunes, who responds by pushing Oriola out wide. A pair of them running through the final turn on to the start and finish straight. And of course, as they battle, it's going to bring the likes of Williams into the mix as well. And Alex Morgan, it's Morgan, there he is, the black and white Poro car, looks to the inside of Williams, who in turn looks to the inside of Oriola, also challenging is David Sebrian. He darts to the inside of Lucille Cipriano. Can he get the car stopped in time? No, he can't. Cipriano takes evasive action, squeezes out Sebrian. They're going to be 3 wide into turn 3, or are they? Sebrian finally able to claim the place, asserting the right to the inside of the road through turn 3. They'll all scatter, of course, on the exit. Ciprian has to keep the line nice and tight. Snatcher breaks into turn 4. And it's Williams who loses out as Morgan able to sneak through, gains another place, goes 7th. Some frenetic racing now as we head towards the final third. Meanwhile, here is the replay then. Oriola sensing the gap, but he couldn't make the move, and Tunes able to get the car stopped enough to then claim the inside line for the right-hander. Sebrian to the inside, Lucille Cipriano. Great stuff from Cipriano. She knew exactly where Sebrian was and was able to position the car to respond. And now they're all queuing up once more. This is the fight for 5th position. And it's Morgan who looks to one side, then the other on Jordi Oriola. They're all in that train behind Antunes, and of course, as they battle, it means that Stian Poulsen in 4th, able to romp clear. Oriola sneaks the inside, and this time he should get through. He pushes out Antunes. Morgan also looks for the move. Morgan may well claim the place. He does. Williams tries to, finds a Seat in his way. Antunes now gets his elbows out. They run side by side through the final turn. Got David Cebrian tucked in just behind as well. This is going to be quite something as they head towards turn 1. They look to fan out and go 3 wide. Not sure that Cebrian's quite got the momentum to do it. Jürgen Schmoll takes advantage of the slipstream and gains ground as well. They all get on the brakes into turn 1. Williams finds the way past Antunes, and then Schmoll settles in next in the queue, having found a way past Cebrian. They are being joined as well by Stefano Zanini and Lucille Cipriano. It's going to be quite the battle again into turn 4. Who's looking to gain the ground? Zanini was looking to the inside of Cebrian. Jürgen Schmoll also to the inside of Williams. Meanwhile, Morgan looks to challenge the outside of Jordi Oriolo. You don't know where to look, do you? It's the white car with the red roof. David Cebrian darted to the inside. It gives half an opening. Back to the Oriolo and Morgan battle. Still Alexander Morgan bottled up behind Jordi Oriolo. They are fighting over 5th and 6th place. Paul Rosell is our race leader from Michael Ascona and Niels Langeveld. Then it is Stian Poulsen. And then, as you can see for yourself, it's pretty much everybody else. And that queue shortly to be joined by Thibaut Morg as well, because of course, and there's almost contact, and squeezed off the road is Jürgen Schmoll, who cannons back onto the circuit and gets tagged by Shane Williams, and that could have been a very nasty incident indeed. It seemed as if Schmoll had picked up damage, and it was Shane Anthony Williams who made contact with him. The South African driver has to pull off into the gravel trap as well. A most unusual incident, and Williams completely innocent. Schmoll is not going to be going anywhere fast. Such a shame. It was such a brilliant and clean battle until that point. It looked as if when Schmoll went onto the grass, he picked up some damage, and that meant that he couldn't slow the car. And for the second time in the race, we've had incidents with cars coming back on 90 degrees to the traffic, fortunately without too much in the way of severe impact. Meanwhile, Morgan looks the outside of Jordi Oriolo. He can't find a way through. We're on to lap 12 of 14. Rosell, Ascona, Langeveld is the order at the front of the field. Then it's Stian Poulsen in 4th. Fight for 5th and 6th, as close as you like. And you get the sense that the Paporo car of Alex Morgan just a little bit quicker than the target competition car of Jordi Oriolo, but Morgan not quite able to find a way past. Oriolo defending very nicely as he covers the inside line. Edges out Morgan as they head downhill through turn 5. And you can see Morgan appreciably quicker than the Spaniard ahead of him. But Jordi Oriolo's had a good season. He's had a number of trips to the podium along the way, including a career best 2nd place last time out in Monza. This then is the fight for 7th place. David Cebrian just clear of Stefano Zanini, Thibaut Morg and Lucille Cipriano. That means that we have had Jimmy Antunes, the other casualty of that incident, into turn 10 a lap ago. I think that Antunes and Schmoll damaged their steering arms when they made contact along the straight. And then Williams, of course, pulling off on the way into turn 11. So we're in to the penultimate lap of the race now for the race leaders. The group behind will start their penultimate lap once they negotiate this final turn. Here's another look at it. Yeah, there's the contact, Schmoll and Antunes. I think they just damaged steering columns, and then Jürgen Schmoll hadn't slowed at all. Now, had he arrived on the scene just a couple of seconds later, that could have been very, very nasty. As it was, although Williams and Schmoll out of the race with damaged cars, as is David Cebrian, in the scheme of things, that was a fortunate escape for all concerned. Jürgen Schmoll making it back to the pits as now Morgan's got the run on Jordi Oriolo and should be able to go through. Indeed he does, up into 5th position for Alex Morgan. clear of Jordi Oriella there. You see the overall classification. Rosell from Ascona and Langeveld. That is pretty much as it was, except to say that Stian Poulsen is definitely closing up on Niels Langeveld into these later stages of the race. There you see Poulsen on a charge in fourth. Here is the race leader, Paul Rosell. He has had an absolutely perfect performance, made a wonderful start, just smoothly eased the car off the line and then got the power down as others in the pit lane debrief the drama. There is Michael Ascona in second place. But for Rosell, this isn't quite going to be enough to give him the championship, but it is certainly going to be enough to really put the burden of pressure onto Stian Poulsen tomorrow. There is Niels Langeveld. Here is Stian Poulsen. And Poulsen is definitely closing. Meanwhile, David Sebrian in seventh place has got Stefano Zanini backed up right behind him, and Zanini thinking about a little bit of a look to the inside. Can't quite do it. What about the chicane? Again, Sebrian's got the car positioned as he needs as they head into the final lap of what has been a very, very dramatic opening race of the weekend for the Seat Leon Eurocup. Out of the final turn, along the start to finish straight into turn one. It's one of the best overtaking opportunities. Zanini gets waved on by the team, but Sebrian manages to cover the inside line, at least initially, and Zanini not quite close enough to really force the issue on the brakes. Paul Rosell works downhill through turn 5. He is well clear of Michael Ascona. Ascona just not quite been able to apply the pressure to Paul Rosell. So for Rosell, this is going to be a 4th win of the season. Michael Ascona, a very welcome return to the podium. Now there is Langeveld. Well, Stian Poulsen slightly optimistically flashing his headlights at the target competition car, saying, come on, I'm in the championship fight, any chance that I can squeeze through into 3rd? I don't think it's going to happen for him, as Rosell climbing through the stadium section for the final time. It's been a magnificent performance from Rosell, who has really been the driver to beat all season long. But for a little bit of a wobble at the Nürburgring, he has barely had anything go against him this year. At one stage it looks as if he's about to run away with the title. He's not quite won it today, but as he heads through the final turn, Paul Rosell scores his 4th victory of the season in the Seat Leon Eurocup, and it's a win that very firmly puts one hand on the championship crown for him. 2nd place goes to Michael Ascona, 3rd to Niels Langeveld, 4th for Stian Poulsen. But what about the fight for 7th place? Because David Sebrian is doing all he can to defend from Stefano Zanini. Zanini tries to get the overlap on Sebrian through the final chicane, but as he leaves the door open, Thibaut Morg joins in, elbows out, and Thibaut Morg might snatch the final points position off Stefano Zanini as they come through the final turn. It's going to be a drag race to the line, and it is 7th place for David. It's 6th place for David Sebrian, 7th for Zanini, 8th for Thibaut Morg. Alex Morgan cross line in 5th. So what has happened to Jordi Oriella over the course of this final lap? He has dropped all the way down to 10th place. So disaster for Oriella. Great for Sebrian, Zanini and Morg. Lucille Cipriano in 9th. She has claimed the Lady Drivers Trophy. A thumbs up from Stian Poulsen to Paul Rosell. And it's good to see the 2 championship rivals able to congratulate each other, both of them having very fine races. That was a really nice job of carving through the field for Stian Poulsen, but he'll have to do that all over again from 9th. Paul Rosell will be starting from 8th. And you will, of course, be able to join us for the live coverage of the Seat Leon Eurocup season finale tomorrow. We will be beginning our coverage at 11:50 Central European time, about 10 minutes before the race itself gets underway. Well, Paul Rosell won't have had many more comfortable victories than that. He was able to build up that advantage in the early stages, and thereafter, the 24-year-old Spaniard controlled it perfectly. Let's have a look then at the final classification as the spectators take a second to pause for breath. So Paul Rosell wins it from Michael Ascona. Ascona settled in the fast lap. Niels Langeveld in third, from Stian Poulsen in fourth. Morgan fifth, then David Sebriat, Stefano Zanini and Thibaut Morg. Lucille Cipriano, winner of the Lady Drivers' Trophy, in ninth place, and Jordi Oriola slipping to 10th on the final lap. Great drive from Marco Pellegrini to 11th, and Attila Tassi, Manuel João drive through penalties, confining them to 11th and 12th. Unfortunately, it was a race with a number of casualties along the way. So there you have it in terms of the championship. Rosell goes into tomorrow's season finale 7 points clear of Stian Poulsen, with now Michael Ascona mathematically out of title contention, but fourth place still very much up for grabs between Brichet, Morgan and Oriola. Paul Rosell rolling to a halt in Parc Ferme. You can hear the applause of the Baporo Motorsport team, and it really would be a quite remarkable achievement if Rosell were to claim back-to-back SEA Leon Eurocup championships. But it will have to be the race of a lifetime tomorrow from Stian Poulsen to wrench the crown away from Rosell. Now the Spaniard unclips himself, steps out of the car and celebrates. Number one signal from Rosell. Thumbs up as well. He goes to thank the team. Well, Michael Ascona, yeah, wobbly thumbs up from Ascona. Pole position, it was the start that really cost him. He just wasn't quite as smoothly away from the line as Rosell, and thereafter Rosell just by a tenth or two, lap upon lap, able to build that advantage out to 3.3 seconds by the flag. So a look, super slow motion, Niels Langeveld. Great performance from the Dutch driver. Michael Ascona. Well, if he returns to the championship next year, he will surely be one of the favourites. And then our race winner, Paul Rosell. Perfect performance from Rosell, and we will go down to Parc Ferme in just a moment's time to hear from our winner.
Yes, it's fantastic winning in my home in Circuit de Catalunya, because I remember last year I couldn't win here in the last race, so today I needed a win, and it's fantastic. We are fighting with Poulsen for the championship in the last race. In the second race, we will fight a lot because we start. He started P9 and I start P8, so the last race will be fantastic. And this race is amazing to win here at home, and I don't have anything more to say.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
A very happy Paul Rosell then, as we'll have a look back at the highlights of an excellent race. In beautiful sunshine, it was Rosell who made a wonderful getaway, as behind there was all manner of excitement into turn one. Mauricio Hernandez tipped into a spin, and he and Adina Bus then cannonballing across the path of the traffic, sending several competitors scattering, but fortunately the accident was a lot smaller than it potentially could have been. Another driver in the wars was Alberto Bassi, tagged into a spin by Smoke Enthusiasm from Jeremy Lazaudier. Julien Brichet really having a day to forget, hugely frustrating for the Frenchman as Renko Berau de Viega. Marie Bauscapens made contact. Bauscapens recovering eventually to 15th. Well, as the leading group of cars broke clear, the story of the race was twofold. Firstly, Stian Poulsen carving through the pack to an excellent fourth, and then the fantastic fight for fifth position. It was utterly captivating. Eventually, it was somewhat salted by Jimmy Antunes, Jürgen Schmal making contact, and as Schmal came back across the traffic, he in turn tagged Shanancy Williams, and those three cars were eliminated from the race. All of that, though, happened a good way behind Paul Rosell, who drove magnificently to score his fourth victory of the year, and it's a win that really puts him in the driving seat with an eye towards claiming the championship in the season finale tomorrow. Second place to Michaela Skåne and Niels Langeveld completing the podium, with Lucille Cipriano winning the Lady Drivers Trophy. Delight for Paul Rosell and the Baporo Motorsport team, as the South Learn Eurocup community gather at the foot of the podium. The drivers about to be announced on to the rostrum in just a moment's time. And for the second year in succession, we've come to Barcelona with the destiny of the championship very much in doubt, and for the second year in a row it is going to go all the way to the final race of the season. It's going to come down to who can manage that pressure the best. Well, for Paul Rosell, he has had a near perfect day, second in qualifying this morning, and race winner this afternoon, and that means that he is 7 points clear of Stian Poulsen going into tomorrow's race. Well, the podium is just being readied, as the applause you can see is because Niels Langeveld runs up onto the podium to take his third place. Michaela Skåne, well, he's delighted with that second. Congratulates Langeveld. And then our race winner, Paul Rosell. Huge applause for the Baporo Motorsport driver, scoring yet another victory. And Lucille Cipriano, our winning lady driver, and once more right up there inside the top 10 for Lucille Cipriano. Spanish national anthem for Paul Rosell as we move on to the presentation of the trophies. And as ever in the South Learn Eurocup, it is a representative of the drivers' team who does the honours with the trophies. So third place for Langeveld. Great debut with the Target team, who otherwise had a slightly disappointing day with both Hernandez and Schmal being caught in incidents. It's PCR Sport for Michaela Skåne. And then Paul Rosell, a representative, of course, of Baporo Motorsport, who have once more had a hugely successful 2015 campaign. A massive cheer going up at the foot of the podium. And Lucille Cipriano running with the JSB competition team, receiving her trophy. So a brilliant way to start the weekend for the South Learn Eurocup. The championship still to be decided as we head towards tomorrow's race. Don't forget, that starts at 11:50 Central European time. But as the drivers pose for the photos and then are about to make merry with the Freycinet, it means that it's time for myself and Evan to say thank you very much for joining us in Barcelona this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed what was an absolutely fantastic race, and we will look forward to more of the same tomorrow when the 2015 South Learn Eurocup will be decided.